Chill Computer Guy. Today, check it out. Waves has a new synthesizer out. Now, something I guarantee with Waves is whatever they put out, it's going to always be of a good quality, a good sound quality. Some of these synthesizers, they come out and they kind of have this real thin kind of papery sound. They don't really have a lot of girth on them. But Wave synthesizers, I actually really like because of the fact that they, they're going to have a good sound engine in there. They're going to have good effects on board, and they're all overall going to sound pretty darn well. Now, this is the third full synth that Waves has put out. They've also put out the Element, which I own. I got that for the $29 sale, and I love that for bass sounds. They also have Codex, which is kind of a wavetable type synth, which I use for top lining pads and whatnot. And I also love that synth. It's a little heavy on the CPU, but or the DSP rather, but I love it. It's a great synth. I like these all three of these synths. I really like going to the default or going to the initializing the patch and kind of building the sound from scratch. This one's no different. This is called Flow Motion, and this is really quite different. Now, when I first downloaded this, I was checking it out. I was like, a little skeptical. I was like, I don't know. I don't know about the look of this thing, kind of like a little wiry, But, this thing is actually a very, very powerful sound design tool, actually. What you have here is I'm going to take you through the interface here. You have two different pages. You have the flow page and the motion page. Flow, motion. Now, you can also switch between the pages by just clicking in the center here. Very nice. But you have four different oscillators. All four of these oscillators are exactly identical. And you can see these little paths here. These represent modulation paths between the four oscillators. This reminds me a lot of the Phase 4. If you're familiar with Bitwig Studio, the Phase 4, it kind of reminds me a lot of that. Now, in the very, very middle here is going to be the volume for each individual oscillator, okay? Your volume is going to be right there, along with your pan, your right and left, your pan right there. And you'll see these little black dots next to a lot of the controls. These are where you can insert modulation. So you'll also see those along the paths here. That's where you would modulate the signal that is going to be generated through the paths. Now, each oscillator has three potentiometers on the outskirts here, which are unlabeled there, and these actually send the signal out. You can see this sends the signal to oscillator 2. You can see this one sends it to oscillator 3. This one here is going to send it to, this is oscillator 4 rather. This is going to be oscillator 3 here. So with each note you hit on the keyboard, middle C in this case, you can see that it's going through the volume and into this oscilloscope here in the middle. But if I turn this up, you can see that this lights up telling you that the signal is going to oscillator 2, which is actually turned off right now. But as I turn this down, look at that, you get a nice opacity blend, so you can tell the strength of the signal and whatnot. So let's go through each oscillator. You can see there's key tracking right here, middle C. If I turn this off, then you can set the frequency right here. Look at that. Now, that's one thing. If you're ever trying out a soft synth, you're demoing it, go down to like 50 hertz, hit the middle C and listen. Listen for the body. Does it have body? And this definitely does. Listen to this. Very nice. If you don't have a bass speaker or headphones, you're probably not even going to hear that. But of course, that's key tracking, and then that's just setting frequency, individual frequency, which is handy when you use this as a modulator. You can turn the volume all the way down and just use this as a modulator. Above there, you have your octaves. It goes up 4 and down 4. Okay. Next to there, you have your tune and then your fine tune. So if you want to go 7 minus 7, that's going to be a fifth down, that type of thing. And then above that, you're going to have your ratio here. So your ratio is interesting because that's basically kind of the same thing as your octave, but this is doubling the frequency, It's going to go all the way up to 36. And this is, again, handy when you are not using key tracking and you want to use the ratio to modulate into other oscillators, that's actually kind of a handy thing, that ratio. That comes into play later. Now, also below the key tracking is phase modulation or frequency modulation. So you have each oscillator can either run as far as phase or frequency modulation, which is not going to affect. You're not going to hear the effect of that until you actually turn up the feedback amount, because the oscillator can feedback into itself as well as feedbacking into the other 3 oscillators, which in return can feedback to the original oscillator. So there's a lot of modulation, there's a lot of signal going on here. And like all frequency modulation, you can kind of get yourself into trouble real quick as far as making some obnoxious, crazy sound that's not usable. This synthesizer is very much like that. So it's kind of like build your patch slowly and methodically and really think about what you're doing, or you're going to end up with just a crackly mess. But let's go ahead and check out the difference between phase modulation and frequency modulation using the feedback control. There's phase modulation and then frequency modulation. So 2 different ways to modulate within the oscillator and also modulate externally. Now in the middle here is the wave. Click this to change it, or you could do this little drop down here and switch. You got the sine, the triangle, the saw, the square, and the noise. I love basic waves. I'm a big fan of just basic waves. I don't like these synthesizers that have 20 million different waves. I'm more into taking a basic wave and using reduction or subtraction to kind of get it where I want as far as the sound goes. But yeah, that's the oscillator there. And like I say, all 4 of them are exactly the same. Let's talk about modulation. I'm going to turn on the second oscillator. And as I was saying, this potentiometer is going to send this signal to the second oscillator. You're not going to hear it because the volume's down. So I'm going to turn the volume up. And now you're hearing both oscillators. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to modulate, using this potentiometer, the signal using phase modulation into oscillator 2. Okay, correction. This represents what the incoming signal is modulating. In other words, if I modulate out, let's go ahead and turn this off. I'm going to turn the volume of oscillator 1 off. So I'm just using oscillator 1 to modulate oscillator 2. Notice that if I change from phase to frequency modulation in oscillator 2, it has no effect. But if I change it in oscillator 2, it does. So that's something that was a little bit confusing to me, but I did actually discover that this represents kind of the incoming signal. Or if you use the feedback here. So this represents what the signal is doing. So the signal is doing frequency modulation. The signal is doing phase modulation. But this is represented of the input, not the output. In other words, if I switch it over here, I'm not outputting frequency or phase modulation. That's only affecting the feedback to the first oscillator. Okay? So basically this affects the incoming signal. It does not affect the output signal, if that makes any sense. I might have just kind of talked myself into the corner there, but that's one thing to be kind of cognizant of, is that it's only it's the incoming signal that's affecting. All right, so that's pretty much how the modulation works between the 2 oscillators. Let's talk about the modulation, which is over here on the right. We have 4 modulators. They can be set to envelope or LFO. The envelope is really nice. It's a nice ADSR, real basic, real cut and dry. What I love about this is you can set it to loop mode, which I always love envelopes you can loop because it's kind of like creating a custom LFO shape, in my opinion. We can control the attack of the envelope. It's going to attack, it's going to speed, and then the velocity. Velocity sensitive is a higher key, going to be a faster envelope, lower key, a lower, slower envelope, that type of thing. All those controls are right here, and then the LFO is great as well. You can switch between the waves here. You have the sine, the triangle, the square, the saw, the ramp, which is the opposite of the saw, and then the sample and hold. And then you have the rate, which is self-explanatory. You can set that to beat divisions and whatnot. And then you also have a smoothness, so you can take the sharp edges of, let's say, this saw LFO and kind of soften it a little bit on the edges. You can go unipolar, polar, unipolar, polar, unipolar. You can also click here, and it'll play the LFO once, so it's basically a one-stop LFO. You can go between poly, mono, or just turn this off completely. You can go into retrigger mode. You also have a fade-in control, so if you want the envelope to fade in to kind of like push it back a little bit, that's a handy control. And now to use these, you just basically take this arrow and you drag it right into here. In this case, I'm going to put it right here, drop it down, hit the key. I got to turn this back on. Hit the key, and you can see nothing's happening because you actually have to double arrow this and mouse it up or down. Very similar to how modulation works in a lot of soft synths, VST type things, is you have to plot the modulation source, and then you also have to control the intensity of it that way. And like I say, these can be used in multiple spots. Anywhere you see this little black dot, you can drag a modulation to. I'm going to go ahead and drag one to the feedback here, for example. We're going to turn the volume of the first oscillator up to mix it with the second. So you can see very, very quickly we're getting kind of a scary bass sound. Very kind of a scary bass sound. This is a good time to talk about up top here. Nice. Check this out. There's a built-in arpeggiator with a swing, a gate. Very cool. Different modes, up, down, random. You can go up to 4 octaves. Very cool. Not the best patch for arpeggiator, but it's nice to know that it's there. You also have a note sequencer. With a nice hold button, a retrig, a gate, a swing. Really, really useful things. Very minimalistic. Only the controls you need. And they just kind of snuck them right above the oscillators. Very cool. Not only that, but you also have a snapshot sequencer. This is a very unique thing because what you can do is you can basically create 16 different patches and kind of bounce between them. Now to select, like if I were to click here, you can see I'm back to the default. So I can set something up. I can set something up kind of all crazy over here. Let's just set a crazy patch real quick just to kind of get an idea. Just something real crazy. But you can switch back and forth. And you can set like a third patch over here. You can click on that, and then do some other crazy obnoxiousness there. And then you can switch between them, which is pretty cool. But yeah, and then you can basically set up kind of a sequencer down here. And it's basically a snapshot sequencer here. You know, and so you can set up a bunch of different patches kind of on the fly and then switch between them. A good example of this is if we load up the flow motion patch and hit middle C, you can see it switches between the patches. I mean, how cool is that, you know? And so you can create kind of like 16 different patches and kind of sequence between them, which is pretty unique. I don't think I've ever seen that in a VST soft synth before, but I could be wrong here. Okay, let's talk about the motion page, because this page is pretty exciting. Now you can either click up here to go to the motion page, or you can just click this oscilloscope right in the center of the page, and then that'll put you to the motion page, which is where all your, you know, your filter envelope, your EQ, your amplitude envelope, all your effects, your unison, your pitch, all your basic but very useful but very necessary controls are in the motion tab here. Let's go ahead and start out with a filter. Very basic filter. Everything you need: a high, a low pass, a notch, a cut filter. We got our notch filter. We got our peak filter. We got our filter envelope. Of course, we can also modulate this stuff. My God! Anyway, you know how filters work. So we have a filter, a high, low pass, a notch, a cut, a peak filter, resonance, key tracking, envelope influence. The envelope's over here. Same thing as the envelope over here. We have a velocity control and attack control. ADSR, real basic. You can modulate the controls. That brings us to the EQ down here. I love the EQs and any waves. The other waves products, I've always loved the EQs. They're just very, very girthy and good sounding. You have a high and low pass filter, again, very useful. The thing I love about the Waves EQs is it's very, very easy, in my opinion, to kind of sculpt the sound with these Waves EQs. They're very, very useful and very effective as far as sound design, getting your final kind of sound out of the instrument, if you will. Of course, we have our amplitude envelope, so we can give it a slow attack. Make a pluck. Same thing here. Your envelope has a gain, you know. You can kind of control the gain of the envelope, which is kind of all right, I guess, yeah. Attack velocity, same as this envelope up here. All right, let's talk about the effects down here. Let's go ahead and get this to relax a little bit. All right, so we got a drive, a distortion, and a crusher. All three of these very similar. They're all different kind of brands of distortion. The drive is more of a kind of a driving distortion, if you will. Oh, God. Oh, wow. Oh, my God. That just sounds like like that lint you get out of the dryer, just kind of like just laying on top of that 15-inch fucking woofer in the back of some dusty-ass minivan or something. Okay, so the thing about this is the drive, to me, is like real basic, just real light, kind of little light sprinkling of distortion. Distortion is like girthy distortion. And the crusher, of course, is going to mainly probably affect the high end of the signal. Okay. So yeah, the crusher is kind of like a bit crusher, you know, but it's a very effective bit crusher. We got a phaser, a flanger, and a chorus. So it's kind of nice how these are set up as like kind of distortion type vibes. And then we have stereo modulation vibes down on the bottom here. I'm going to turn that crusher down. Oh, wow. I hope you're wearing headphones. You can be wearing headphones for this. Oh, wow. Chorus. Oh, man. I love it. I love the fact that these are all just a single potentiometer. I need to say it that like too many controls can somehow just it's just minimalism. Waves does have a nice approach to minimalism in its soft sense that I love. Too many tools can cause paralysis. This is very true. We got a nice delay on deck. Let's check this out. Of course, I've given it an obnoxious amount so you can hear the effect. Now we got a nice, beautiful reverb below there. Oh my God, it's just such a smooth reverb. Like I say, these effects are worth the price of admission, in my opinion. Just beautiful effects here. Let's go ahead and turn the reverb back down. Let's go on to the unison. We have up to a 4-voice unison. Let's go ahead and just go to 2 right now. It's beautiful, and like I say, I just moved a few potentiometers and I already got a potential kind of like background sub kind of industrial bass patch. All right, so those are the effects, global unison, and then we have the polyphony. You can go 32 voices if you want. If you got like 32 fingers, want to hit 32 keys at once, that's great. Or you can just put it on 1, which is basically mono. Or you could just click mono here, mono legato, all that stuff. BPM, you can set the BPM or go to your host, which is what I recommend. You got a global tuning, and then portamento if you want to get a little glide going. Got a little too much reverb on there. So yeah, we have a nice volume control here, and we even have a little clipping meter. Oh, nice. Okay, so with the shield off, you can see when it clips. Obviously I clipped right there, but if you turn this little shield icon on, that's kind of like basically like a hard limiter is what that is. Kind of like a brick wall limiter, they call it. So you can't clip. Then if I click that, take it down, you got to reset it. There we go, I don't clip anymore. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I've come to the end of all the controls. Now also we have tons and tons and tons of patches. We have Just tons of patches. We have something called animated keys. We have snapshot sequence patches. We have bass. We have sub bass, lead, soft lead, mallet, keys, synth, poly, pad, plucked, brass, strings, stabs, drums, arpeggiator, rhythmatic, melodic sequences. We got classic FX sequences, and we also have an artist folder for artist presets. In each one of these artist presets, there's like probably some of these, there's like, probably 40, 50 presets in each artist folder. I would say this thing's probably got a good 500 presets on it. It's got tons of presets. And I recommend downloading the demo and checking out the presets because they're pretty intense. They're pretty good. Let's go ahead and just check out a few. Oh my God. I mean, the sound that comes out of this is really, really good, guys. I really, really think this is a great piece. For the price, it's a steal right now. Throw a little distortion on that. Oh my God. Oh, it's so fuzzy. Ah, it's beautiful. Beautiful. All right, like I say, there's tons of presets. I'm going to check out some soft leads here. Oh my God! Yeah. Check out some chords. Let's go into strings. They got some strings. Oh my God, I gotta go buy this thing right now. Check it out. This is an unbelievable, the presets are really, really, really good on this. And there's tons of them. And like I say, there's an artist folder. We gotta check out some effects. What the heck? Oh! It's so scary! All right, I don't know about you, but I'm gonna go to Waves right now and close the deal on this. Yeah, it's $39.95 right now. So check this synth out. It's really, really great. Tons of great presets in here. Like I say, there's probably 500 or 600 presets in here in great categories, and we also have an artist category. And Jordan Neville has he's got like 1 million presets on this thing. That's unbelievable. Beautiful, beautiful synth. I highly, highly recommend this synthesizer. Check it out. But yeah, there it is. It's like a simple little bass sound I created in a few clicks there, using the flow motion by waves. You know, I don't know. It's a nice little bass sound I could use in some kind of a, you know, strung out gothic dark industrial track or something, you know, and then I put little pads and some top line melody and put some crazy kind of kick drum on there. Maybe run that through the sausage fattener, kind of sink it down into the track. Throw a bunch of reverb on top and maybe put some Vox on there with some distortion and some parallel processing. Maybe a little offset with the chorus and whatnot. You got a track. Anyway, Chill Computer Guy here. Check out the Flow Motion. It's on sale at Waves right now. I don't know how long the sale's going on, but this thing's $39 right now. It's going to be, I think the regular price $100, so check it out. I recommend it just because I think the sound that comes out of it's really great, and I actually really like sound designing on it. So, yeah, check it out. Flow Motion by Waves. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up. Comment below. Let me know what you want to see. If you've checked out this plugin, let me know what you think of it. Hopefully, I kind of covered a little bit of everything. Like I say, I've only used it about a half hour myself. As far as I know, it came out today, so pretty exciting stuff. Yeah, so comment below, give me a thumbs up, click that bell so you don't miss anything. Tell a friend about the channel. Remember, these videos, they aren't for beginners, they're not for experts, they're for everybody. My #1 goal is just to inspire you to make music. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe, and we'll see you guys again. Bye-bye now.